Hey bosses, before we get started, I want to tell you about two exciting things. One is the next Nomad Summit conference has been announced, and this year it's going to be in Cancun, Mexico. You can get more info at nomadsummit.com, and I'll tell you more during the break. Also, if you haven't signed up for travel insurance yet, and you are currently or planning to be a digital nomad, I'm excited to tell you, world's first ever travel insurance by digital nomads for digital nomads has been created by SafetyWay. Go to nomadsummit.com/insurance to check it out and sign up.
Welcome to the Travel Like a Boss podcast, where we interview location-independent entrepreneurs that travel the world like a boss by being their own boss. Here's your host, Johnny FD.
Vítajte v podcaste Cestuj ako pán.
Oh, I love that. Hey guys, welcome to episode 217 of the Travel Like a Boss podcast. Today's guest is Lydia Machová from languagementoring.com. Welcome.
Hi, thank you, Johnny.
How did I do with your last name?
With one little mistake.
Oh no, I was practicing that all day.
I'm sorry about it. It's Machová.
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 Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I watched your TED Talk this morning.
Oh, did you?
I was very impressed with it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that.
So Lydia Machová
Very good.
is from the little village of Slovakia.
It's not so small. Come on. It's like a proper country, you know?
So I was really excited. So Lydia actually was a speaker at the 2019 Nomad Summit, and she spoke about starting a business offline in a small market and then transitioning online to a big market. Her talk will be up on YouTube pretty soon, in the next few weeks, so you can check it out at nomadsummit.com. And now we are hanging out in Chiang Mai.
Yeah. And I'm very happy about that because I just love Chiang Mai. I didn't know what to expect, but oh my God, I love it so much. I just want to move here.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel that way. I mean, I'm sure there's a small percentage of people that come here and they're just like, it's not for me. But it seems like the majority of people, once they come here, they just keep coming back.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably like the place has everything, as you like to say, like there's everything for life, right? But especially the community of people. That's what I love most of all. So yeah, it's awesome here.
Yeah, I think so as well. And you actually remind me of my buddy and old mentor, Anton Kraly, because he had a very successful online business while living in New York. And he never really thought to just live in Chiang Mai or be a nomad. You know, he would go on trips and go on vacations and things like that. But he would always just go back to New York to work on his business, even though he really didn't need to.
Yeah.
And you're kind of in a similar situation, right?
Exactly, yeah. Now I'm asking myself, like ever since I came here a month ago, I go like, so once again, why am I in Bratislava? Like I'm usually based there. Well, I think not anymore. I want to start my nomad lifestyle now. But I've spent the last 3 years there building my business. And it was very important at the beginning because I was starting locally and offline. But now I don't really have a reason to stay. And I think by default, people just stay where they are because it's comfortable or I don't know. But now that I've made the first step, you know, I want to continue.
Yeah, I really like that. I mean, I think there's a lot of people in Bratislava that wake up every morning asking themselves, why am I here in Bratislava?
It's not so bad. Like I think it's a very nice place to live. It's similar in size to Chiang Mai. It's walkable. Like I like Bratislava as such. But what I really missed is this community of very open people who want to connect and like talk about business and like co-working centers full of interesting people. So
yeah, I could definitely see that. And to be fair, I haven't been to Slovakia yet, but I have passed by on a train from Prague on my way to I don't remember.
Budapest, probably.
Budapest.
Yeah, it's a typical route.
And I looked out the window and I thought, oh, is this Budapest? It's so beautiful. And someone was like, no, that is Slovakia.
Yeah.
And I thought, maybe one day.
Yeah, we have some nice bridges and a castle in the middle of the city, so it's a beautiful place to come.
Yeah, but what's really cool is I'm sure a lot of people who grew up in Slovakia think, well, this is it. You know, I grew up speaking Slovakian. You know, I can maybe sell in the Czech market, but that's it. This is my life. Yeah, and there's no way I can, you know, sell internationally. You know, there's no way I can branch out. Or they think, you know, oh, I don't want to sell here because there's not that many people. You know, there's not that much money. You know, I want to sell just in the U.S.
Right.
But you kind of did a very smart hybrid. How did that come about?
Yeah, I was deciding exactly at this dilemma at the beginning. So should I just limit myself to Slovakia, because our language is very different. It's Slovakian, right? And it's very different from English. And like if you write all your content, my business is expert business, so it's you sell information. If you write it all and prepare it all in Slovak, it's unusable anywhere else in the world. And it's 5 million people. And as you said, maybe the Czech Republic with another 10 million, but only videos, nothing written. They would not read in Slovak. Or should I go big into the American market? And I made the decision to start in Slovakia first and then move internationally. I think really this was the best decision for me, because the Slovak market for me, being a Slovak, is so much easier. I know these people so well. I can connect with them. I can describe their problems exactly, and I can help them find the solution exactly to their problems, because I've been through the language education just like them. So that was a huge benefit.
Yeah, and I'm sure they can relate with you too. They just trust you. They can ask you questions in their native tongue. It just makes it so much easier. And what was really cool that you described in your Nomad Summit talk is that how the local media just picked it up and they went wild for it, because there's probably not that much going on, day to day. So the news outlets are looking for stories, and when they find a young Slovak woman entrepreneur teaching something cool and different, it's exciting for them and they want to represent it.
Yeah, exactly. And the whole trick was just to present it in a way which is interesting for the media, right? I learned that on the go. But so first of all, they got interested in the fact that I speak a lot of languages. But then I basically, this is kind of my pitch sentence is I teach people languages, but no, sorry, I don't teach people languages. I teach them how they can learn a language by themselves. And I teach people languages even that I don't speak. And this for the media is like, wow, tell me more, right?
Yeah, because that's interesting, because I think a lot of people would think, well, if you don't speak Chinese, how do you help someone learn Chinese?
Yeah, well, it's all about the system, really. So yeah, I can totally do that, because I mean, if you think about it, if you generalize it, what is language learning really about? It's spending enough time doing activities that you enjoy and that are effective, right? Like that's all it takes. And if you have a system in that, well, you're definitely going to succeed. So I help people with these things basically, and it doesn't matter what language it is, because I tell people to use materials which are out there, like. If you look online, so many things are out there for free. So you can just create a system, find something that you enjoy, and just spend time with it. That's all.
Yeah, and that's actually a really smart market to get into, because let's say you were to create, A to Z courses in every language, it would take you forever.
Yeah.
But if you can just utilize what's out there already, and there's probably really good information out there already, but you're helping people sort through it, you're helping people stick to it, you're helping people actually get the most out of it.
Exactly.
It'd be the same as if you were in the fitness industry, instead of building gyms and creating, your own routines, somebody can be a fitness coach or mentor and just say, look, we're not going to reinvent the wheel. There's things that work already. There's already gyms. Mm-hmm. Let's just utilize these things and make sure you actually stick on track. Yeah. And do it correctly.
Exactly. And I saw that this was the biggest problem of my competitors, basically. So they try to create materials for specific language combinations. But if you have, let's say, basic German materials for Spanish speakers, they are unusable for French speakers and for English speakers. So you need so many combinations that it's just crazy, right? And I said, well, if they are creating all this content and a lot of the content is free out there, let me just create a system for the people to use it effectively. And that's actually the key to success in language learning. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really cool.
Thanks.
And I was actually thinking, after I listened to your TED Talk, the two big takeaways I got from it is that you need both a system to make sure it actually works, but also a passion or something to keep you doing it and going. Because you can have the best system in the world, but if you dread doing it, you hate it, you're not excited about it, you just won't follow it.
Exactly.
But you can also be really excited about something, but not have a proper system, and you're just kind of spinning your wheels. People will spend months or years sometimes, following something they're passionate about, but never getting anywhere because they're just like clicking 80 different YouTube videos and not following one thing.
Exactly, yeah. And I believe this is the problem. So the fun aspect or the enjoyment aspect is the main reason why so many people have been through years of language education. Like we have all been there, right, in schools, and no one really speaks the language. And I'm just surprised that not more people are asking themselves like, why is this okay? Why are we spending so many years trying to learn French and Spanish and it just doesn't work? And I believe it's because it's not nice, it's not enjoyable. We usually have a boring book, right? The teacher prescribes what we're going to do. It's very heavily grammar based and it's just so boring. So actually the secret that I discovered with polyglots, people who speak a lot of languages, is they all enjoy what they do with languages. And once I understood this difference, it's like, okay, how can I help other people who are not so crazy about languages in general? How can I make them passionate about one language?
Yeah, so this was really exciting for me because I had actually never heard the term polyglot, or maybe it did in passing, but I never met someone. And it just kind of shows how many different subgroups, subgenres there are around the world. Because now that I met you and I've been introduced to the world of polyglots, I realize, oh my God, they are everywhere. And they are the same places that digital nomads are because we both like to travel.
Yeah, exactly.
And now I'm just like, wow, there's a whole nother world out there that I never thought about.
Yeah. No, it's a community just like digital nomads, I would say. Like we have our conferences, we like to hang out together. We speak in different languages, not all the time, but like it's something we enjoy. Yeah, so it's quite a big group of people.
So everybody wants to know, what is the definition of a polyglot? What is the minimum requirement to call yourself a polyglot?
Yeah, well, there is no official definition for that, but what we say usually, it's like if you speak 5 or more languages, because in Europe, it's not so uncommon to see someone speaking 3 languages. Like that's what we go through our education speaking 2 foreign languages. So we are not all polyglots when we do that. But I would say more like the term polyglot is about wanting to learn new languages and doing it for passion and not because, for example, your parents brought you to different countries when you were a kid. That's a multilingual person, right? But a polyglot is someone who's passionate about it and likes to learn new languages. Yeah,
that definitely makes sense. And they're definitely passionate about it from the ones I've met so far. Mm-hmm. They definitely like to nerd out on languages.
Yeah, well, some more and some less, Some people are really crazy about grammar or pronunciation, but most people just want to communicate with people. It's what languages are all about.
Come on, you guys invented your own language.
We didn't, it's not a polyglot project or anything. Oh, actually, yeah. I mean, there are languages which were invented later on, and they're the simplest language, for example, has only 119 words, and it's called Tokipona, and it's really a nerd language just for the fun of it, right?
Okay, so girls, if you see a guy in a Tinder profile, put down that he speaks
Tokipona,
you might want to swipe left. Unless you were really into nerdy.
No, come on. It's an interesting project. So I guess you're hinting at Esperanto.
Yes.
Which is a different type of language. So it was created in 1887. Okay, before the polyglot community was there.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a pretty old one. And the idea behind it is actually quite beautiful. It's like, let's make an international language that all people can learn. Because let's face it, it's quite unfair that we're using English to communicate with everyone. I mean, you just happen to be born with English, but I had to learn it from scratch, right? Why are we using your language and not mine or, a neutral one?
Everyone should speak American.
Yeah, well, it really is an unfair advantage to native speakers.
It is actually unfair. But at the same time, I think it's one of those things where now that it's happened, I think the world should just kind of settle on it and be like, okay, English is the international language. Yes, it's a bit unfair for Americans or Canadians or Brits, to have grown up with it. But I think the idea of trying to force everyone to speak French, for example, is never going to happen.
No, of course not. It doesn't work like that. And it's also not the idea of Esperanto to force it up on people. But there is a nice community of people who just think that it is unfair. Let's all try to learn this very simple language, which people can normally learn in 3 months because it's so regular. And when I communicate with someone, I know that they have put the exact amount of effort into learning this language as I have. And it's...
that is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I do like that.
Okay, so it's not nerdy, right? Let's not elaborate on the topic then.
So I was actually thinking of what you had mentioned about 5 or more languages, and I realized my mom actually speaks a bunch of languages, but she's not a polyglot. She just happened to grow up in Taiwan, where she spoke Taiwanese because that was kind of just the local dialect. But she also spoke Mandarin because that was the official language, and then she started speaking Cantonese because we moved to San Francisco and there's no one speaks Mandarin there. Just for some reason, it's primarily people who speak Cantonese from Hong Kong. And the languages are so similar that it was very easy for her to switch over and learn. In fact, I can, order food and say some basic things in Cantonese, even though I never learned it, just because, I liked watching some gangster movies as kids, and the words are similar enough or it's a different pronunciation. But I think the phrases are exactly the same, because if when someone reads a book or something or menu in Cantonese, it's exactly the same in Mandarin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's a very different experience with languages than I have, for example. So your mom is multilingual. You could call her a polyglot easily, but no. In the definition of like what is your approach to languages? She could probably not tell you how to learn language. She probably doesn't really. She hasn't spent much time with it, thinking about it. It just kind of happened in her life that she was in multilingual environments.
Yeah, but to be fair, I think she's also really passionate about it. She just likes talking to people. So I think she just liked talking to Cantonese people. So she wanted to be able to communicate. Yeah. So in a sense, she's somehow following that formula where, she's like, she finds a reason to learn it, a passion to continue practicing it.
Oh, that's very important, yeah.
And maybe her system was kind of just a made up one, like, let me translate things in Mandarin to Cantonese, but regardless, she figured out some way to do it.
Yeah. Well, if you learn languages in this way, in a very natural way, where you are with people and you want to communicate with them, I don't think you really need a system for that. Like, you are basically exposed so much and you are so passionate that the system is not so important. But if someone wants to learn, like actively learn this language to fluency, then I believe a system is really important.
Yeah, I can see that. And actually, I was thinking it's very similar to learning, e-commerce or programming or really any like business skill. I remember when I first started learning how to dropship or build an e-commerce store, I had to follow a system, or I would have been all over the place. And I think even more now, there's so much different information out there, and some of them work better than others, but if you combine them, they will guarantee not work, because if you take like a bit and piece from one, bit and piece from another, you'll probably just be confused.
Yeah.
So I was really lucky that when I started, there was just one system. I was like, okay, AntonMethod.com, I'm going to follow this. He has 7 steps. I'm just going to do these 7 steps. That's it. Cool. But the passion-wise, I think that also just came into play, because even though I wasn't particularly excited about, selling furniture online, it wasn't like, oh my God, I'm so excited to sell this furniture. What was really exciting was seeing the store be built. Mm-hmm. And then when I would get a customer, knowing that was a real person ordering an item they wanted, and then, me being an entrepreneur, finally being a business owner, fulfilling that order, sending them the tracking number, getting a review from them.
Yeah, it's exciting.
That was fun.
Yeah.
And I think that kept me going. So I kind of fell into it where I had both the system that worked, but also the passion to keep doing it.
Yeah, and this is exactly what I do with languages. I basically apply just what you said to languages. So I get people excited about the system of learning. Like I make them create their own plan, and then get excited about the fact that they are keeping it every day. And like on average, these people in my courses spend like more than an hour a day learning the language, and they're all busy and have stuff to do. But they put it in a chart and they go like, oh my God, look how much I've done this week, and I've listened to 4 hours of podcasts, and they get excited about the work itself, right? And then the results come, and at the end of let's say after 2 months, they get excited about seeing the progress. And that's, if you can get into this, if you can fall in love with the process of learning the language, then you're basically bound to succeed.
Yeah, I think it's a cool system, and I'm excited to learn I almost consider it my first time really trying to learn a foreign language. I would say some people might consider me trying to learn Spanish, kind of throughout the years, my first attempt, but I never really had a system.
Right.
I had the passion for it. I was excited. I would go to, language exchange talks. I was living in Gran Canaria for a few months. I would try to talk to the butcher, but I didn't really have a system I was following. I would just like, whenever I could, I would try to talk to someone. Mm-hmm. And even though I was able, after a few months, to memorize a couple phrases and words and kind of get by, I never learned it in a proper way to fluency.
Yeah, no, it's impossible. Like, you would have to have a lot of exposure in that way without a system. But yeah, I think now you're more serious about learning Russian.
Yeah, so guys, 1 year from now, I'm going to be introducing the Travel Like a Boss podcast in Ruski.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm excited about that. No, but I think you can definitely succeed, like based on your experience in so many other areas, right? Like basically what you set out to do, you do. So if you find the way, I'm absolutely sure that you can learn Russian.
Well, spasiba.
Nie za что.
But now that I've said it, I kind of have to do it. I think that's actually my favorite thing about this podcast is I will randomly think up things I want to do, and I feel accountable because I feel like there's thousands of people now that will be like, "Hey, Johnny, you said you were going to do this.
Right.
What happened?"
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I think this is a great way. I actually also encourage my course participants to do that. Like, put it on Facebook. Tell people that you're really serious about this. Like, I'm really going to learn English now, and feel free to ask me in half a year how I'm doing in English. Something like that.
So to put you on the spot, there's something that you had mentioned just before we started recording that you want to do your TED Talk in Swahili in Kenya.
Right. I like to give myself a language mission or something, and I'm going to go to Kenya for about a month to practice my Swahili. I mean, this is something I usually do. I decide to learn a language, spend 2 years with it, and then use the language big time, like Russian and French, etc. And now I want to make myself even more serious about the whole Swahili project. So yeah, I'll find an audience and I'll try to deliver my Swahili talk to them.
That is so crazy. When did you start learning Swahili?
It was a year ago. Yeah.
So, first off, it's such a random language to pick up.
It is, yeah, I know. But the reason why I picked it up is I really wanted to learn a non-European language because all of my other 8 languages are European, and people always go like, yeah, but it's European, it's too easy, right? So I said, okay, I actually want to get to know the process of learning a language from scratch, and I don't want the help of my other languages, because if I learn Portuguese now, like, I already understand 30% because of Spanish and French, right? So I wanted a language where nothing helps me. I'm just like any of my clients who are learning their first language. And it's very interesting because I learned so much in the last year about learning languages.
I don't think I've ever even heard Swahili. Like, how do you even say, like, hello, my name is Lydia or something?
Habari yako, Nina, this, okay, I'm under stress now, okay? Mimi ni Lydia, it would be too simple, yeah.
Okay. But I think they're going to be so surprised when you go there to Kenya and you can speak their local language.
Yeah. I think they'll appreciate it. The problem with Kenya is that they use a lot of English. They like to use English, but I hope they will not switch into English. If I insist I want to speak Swahili.
Oh my God. Okay. I think the reason why I chose Russian is because, at least right now, while, a lot of people over 30, 35 that grew up under USSR don't speak any English, and even though they're not in Russia, they might be from, countries around it, the former USSR, which turns out to be really big. I think in the US, we kind of grew up thinking the US is the biggest country in the world, but in fact, it's actually geographically and population pretty small compared to a lot of other places.
Right.
But there's a lot of places that are not very well traveled to yet, where people either only speak Russian or they speak Russian and whatever their local language is. And I think that's going to really force me to immerse myself and not switch to English because it's so easy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I think you'll love it. So Russian was my previous language, the last one I learned, and I did it for traveling purposes. My project was to do the Trans-Siberian and only speak in Russian. And then I also traveled in Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan, and that was so cool.
So how did that turn out? Were you able to speak only Russian on that Trans-Siberian?
Oh yeah, totally. I immersed myself so much in the language that I was dreaming in Russian. Like I just switched off other languages and it was all Russian for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how was it like who did you meet on that train? Did you talk to any locals?
Yeah, I actually did not meet any foreigners, any travelers. I was a bit surprised. I thought this would be like the typical route, but actually they use it a lot for just to travel in the country to visit their family. And so there were a lot of families with children, and they were curious about someone, speaking Russian, but with an accent, let's say. So that was very interesting to talk to them. I had a lot of nice conversations there.
That's cool. I think for me, it'd be even more funny because I don't look like I would speak Russian at all.
Well, actually, I mean, the more you go to the east, there are a lot of Asians, in Asian part of Russia, who are Russian native speakers. So I think they would not be so surprised. Actually.
Oh, actually, you're right. Because I think some people spoke to me in Russian because they thought I was like Kazakh or something.
Right. Yeah. No, they could. Yeah. You could be. You could be. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I can get away as a local and kind of just sneak in.
Right. Yeah. That would be cool. I think that would be a nice project for you too, right? To go and do the Trans-Siberian in Russian.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm going to put that on my list.
Nice.
Yeah. Actually, I think though the Trans-Siberian would be bad for me because if I do it, I'd probably do it on Nomad Train, which is kind of like the digital nomad train ride through Trans-Siberian. I think it'll be fun to be able to just talk to locals and be the translator. I think that's what I want. I want to be able to be the translator in the group. You know, every time you travel with friends, there's always one person that speaks a language way better than everyone else, and they end up doing all the talking.
Yes, but at the same time, I actually would, if you want to really use your language when traveling, I would definitely recommend you go solo, because that's when you talk to people so much more. I mean, it's nice to translate for friends, but at the same time, the fact that these friends are there, that's a lot of artificial communication there in English,
and
right?
you end up going back to English. I mean,
Yeah.
that's probably the reason why I don't speak much Thai, is because all my friends here speak English.
Exactly.
And when I order food, it ends up being a very short conversation. And then I'm like, okay, how are you doing? Oh, the food was delicious. Can I have some of this?
Right.
Kind of the bill. That's
Yeah,
it.
no. I always, when I make it my language mission, like I had people asking me, oh, can I join you for the Trans-Siberian? And I was like, do you speak Russian? No. Well, no, sorry.
Oh, wow,
but
yeah.
I'm going to just use Russian. Like it's very important for me.
That's smart, though. I think that's smart to set your rules and follow your system.
Yeah. And I also think you connect so much easier when you travel solo. You connect easier to the locals because you want to talk to someone. You have not just spent several hours talking to your friend in English.
Yeah,
So,
I agree. I mean, as much as I love my buddy Chris, he is the reason, well, we are the reason why neither of us speak Russian. Is because when we were in Ukraine for like 1 or 2 months together, we hung out every day. We had every meal together and we would speak in English.
yeah.
So we never really had a big reason to go out and, be fully immersed.
Yeah.
I remember there was this little shop, right downstairs from where we lived, where we would go to buy water every day or maybe an ice cream or something. And there was this old, lady working in there. We call her the babushka.
Yeah.
So this old granny. And she was so nice. She would always want to talk to us. But she only spoke Russian because this was in Kiev. And I would, try to learn a few words. I'd be like, oh, Dobry dien, like, good afternoon. And she'd get so excited and she would start talking to me in Russian. I'm like, no, that's the only word I know.
Yeah.
And I felt so bad because I saw her every day for a month and every day she tried to speak to me and every day I couldn't. And that was kind of what implanted in my brain. I was like, I want to be able to just talk to her. And if anything, I mean, think about it. She's like a free language tutor because she wants to talk.
Yeah.
She speaks the language fluently. She's a native speaker. She has nothing to do all day.
Right.
And if I was able to just communicate a little bit more and practice more, that would have been amazing. Spending 1 month talking to her every day.
Yeah, but at the same time, okay, if you just go for like polite phrases with someone as a shop assistant or something, it will not really get you very far in the language. What you would need is an intense conversation for maybe an hour with someone, and ideally someone who is interested in you or what you have to offer, right?
Yeah, I can definitely see her talking my ear off for an hour a day.
Okay, I see.
She was like, she was bored,
Yeah, okay.
So,
but
yeah.
then, like, what about the topics? Like, so you would ask her, like, I think the more genuine the interest in the conversation is, the better. So, for example, I learned Spanish so well because of Erasmus students. It's this exchange program in Europe for students. A lot of Spanish students came to Bratislava and I was their buddy. So I was helping them. Like, I picked them up at the airport and we traveled to their dorm. And they had so many questions, like genuine questions, that they asked me, like, okay, so where do I get the transportation card? Right? And then it was up to me to explain it. And I said, just Spanish, please. And given that they needed this information, they were really patient, right? And I also, like, I think for the brain is really important. Like, when you know that there is a real need for you to communicate, I think your level goes like 2 levels up.
Yeah,
you know?
I can see that.
Yeah.
I can definitely see that.
So I don't know how much you would want to communicate to the babushka, like to really, tell her something that she really wants to know. She would probably be polite and say like, oh, where are you from? Okay, but like it doesn't really affect her life.
That definitely makes sense. I think the reason why I learned how to say things like, no sugar or like no oil in Thai is because I was eating a really strict diet and I had to communicate
Right,
that.
right.
And if I didn't, then I wouldn't be able to eat the food.
Right.
So that definitely makes sense.
No, I've had this experience so many times. Like when you really need to communicate, suddenly you find yourself being able to communicate. It's like a breakthrough moment. And I love this about languages. Like when you get to, of course, you need to have learned something before. It doesn't just happen because of the need. Like I need to speak Turkish, so it happens. Yeah. But it all kind of comes into place in your brain, and you can use the language because it's about communication. I love it so much. Like you can get addicted to this feeling with languages.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. So that's exciting. Like, I mean, what actually got you into wanting to learn languages in the first place?
So by the time I was 18, I just spoke English and German, just like everyone in Slovakia, really.
Which is really a lot if you think about it, because you grew up speaking, 2 languages already, Slovakian and Czech. Is that a language?
Yeah, you could say that, yeah.
And then in school, they forced you to learn English.
Yeah.
Were you able to actually speak English, or just like a lot of Europeans who are forced to learn it, just be able to read and know grammar?
Yeah, no, it was my favorite subject at school. So I spent a lot of time at home learning English additionally. And so I became one of the best in class soon. And I was working hard on my English during my high school. So I was very good at English and German. So I decided to study these 2 languages.
Why German?
It's the number 2 language you learn in Slovakia because we're so close to Austria and Germany. It's interesting work-wise. There are a lot of German companies, so most Slovaks learn, like all of them learn English, and then we learn German or French or Spanish, but mostly German. It's like it's a must, it's a cultural heritage.
That's crazy. I mean, there's a lot of people, in the US, definitely every British person I ever met, Australians who can barely speak English.
I know.
And that's it. Like, there's no possible chance of us speaking another language unless we grew up bilingual or we just really wanted to.
Yeah, but that comes from the need. Again, you don't really need another language. You travel everywhere. You have menu in English, right? My parents are afraid to travel because they don't speak any language, and they would not handle an airport. They don't know. Wow. They don't know how to transfer at an airport, so they will not travel. And so if you don't speak a language in Slovakia, you're very limited, right? I mean, Slovakia is in the middle of Europe. You go north, it's Polish. You go east, it's Ukrainian. Down, it's Hungarian. You don't understand anything. So you basically really have to learn a language to do anything, right?
Yeah, and it's not even that far, right? I think
it's like 2 hours up, 3 hours right, 2 hours down. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, so I guess it's both a blessing and a curse to grow up in a landlocked country like Slovakia.
Yeah, exactly. So given that most people have to learn languages now, and I think they realize that they should work on it, and there are so many possibilities right now, I think it's great to have this motivation. But at the same time, for the older generation, they did not really have language. They just had Russian at school. That was like the compulsory language you had to take. No English at all.
So do people in Slovakia still speak Russian?
Yes and no. No, I would say no, because the older generation, they will always say like, oh, I do speak Russian, but not really. Like they forgot everything because they didn't like the language. They were forced to learn a lot about the Soviet countries, etc. But the younger people start to learn language now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
All right, bosses, I wanted to quickly tell you more about the Nomad Summit and also the travel insurance I had mentioned earlier. So the reason why we chose Cancun, Mexico for the Nomad Summit this year is because even though we liked Vegas, we really want to take advantage of the fact that as location-independent entrepreneurs, as digital nomads, we can travel the world and go to better, cheaper, warmer places. And nearby Playa del Carmen is the Cancun airport, where we're going to be hosting this year's Nomad Summit Conference. Right by the beach, it'll be beautiful, we're gonna have tacos, tequilas, and if you stay the week after, we're all gonna head down to Playa del Carmen to co-work together, and who knows, go scuba diving, go snorkeling, and really enjoy our time. If you wanna know more, just go to nomadsummit.com, you can sign up, you can RSVP on our Facebook, you can buy pre-sale tickets right now on sale, and regardless if you're coming to the Nomad Summit, if you're already traveling or you're planning to travel somewhere else, I would highly recommend everybody get travel insurance, especially travel medical insurance. Safety Wing has created the world's first travel insurance really specifically to cover our lifestyle and our needs for long-term travel. Go to nomadsummit.com/insurance to sign up and check them out. Yeah, I think this is really fun. I mean, this is a fun topic for digital nomads because we travel so much. And I think in general, most of us don't bother learning a language because we can get by in English and we hang out with so many other nomads and we all speak English.
Right.
But I think this is kind of the next generation of nomads where, I really believe that the next like stage is to stay in places longer, instead of just bouncing around and saying, oh, I want to check off as many countries as possible and say I've been to 50 countries.
Yeah.
But you don't really see anything. You just kind of, go around, to really immersing ourselves, spending 3 months, 6 months, maybe even a year in each place, learning the local culture, learning the local language. I mean, how cool would that be if, as nomads, instead of just, moving around just to move around, we spent 2 years in each country. We learned the language to fluency, and then we moved on to the next country.
Yeah, or if you want to travel a lot in different countries and still learn one language, then go to South America and Central America, right? It's always a new country, but you keep practicing your Spanish. And
that's true as well, right?
Yeah. I think Spanish. So if anyone asks me, like, what are the 3 most useful languages for travelers, like where you can use it as much as possible, I would say English, obviously, then Spanish, and then Russian, because you can cover with these 3 languages, you cover so many countries.
Yeah, and so many cool places too.
Yeah, totally.
I'll say that. I mean, that's why I wanted to learn at least some Spanish. It's because not only Spain, but all of South America, all of Central America. A lot of, even like downtown LA. Like I remember being on a bus going from the beach to East LA, and nobody on the bus spoke English. It was crazy. And I was, talking to this old grandma, and she was so happy that I spoke some Spanish.
Yeah.
And my Spanish is terrible, but for that hour, we're just like, chit-chatting. She was telling me about her family. She was just bored, right?
Yeah.
But having just a little bit of the language like made that hour so much more enjoyable than me being on my phone or something.
Exactly. No, if you get a few of these hours like intensive, where again you want to communicate with someone, they're happy to communicate and be patient and supportive, that can really change your level of the language so fast. It's incredible. Yeah. This like it's really the speaking that moves you forward in any language.
Yeah,
it's very important.
I definitely agree, and I think immersing ourselves physically in that country is so helpful.
It is, but at the same time, it's not necessary. So, for example, my system of learning languages, I always learned all my languages in Slovakia, and if I want to travel somewhere, I give myself at least a year before that to achieve a level where I can use the language already. Because the thing is, if you come to a country, let's say if I went to Kenya a year ago, I didn't speak any Swahili at all, like everything you hear and see is new to you. So your brain is overloaded and you can't really process anything. But if you already are on a, let's say, lower intermediate level, then you hear this thing and you remember and use it in conversation and you know it forever, right? So
yeah, that definitely makes sense as well. I think I just like throwing myself into the fire.
Yeah. Yeah, many people think like, oh, I want to learn Russian, so I'll just move to Ukraine or Russia right away. But honestly, that does not help you much. And I know so many people who move to the place and like people expect that this language kind of like jumps on you or something. Like you just immerse yourself and that's it. But no, it's really about the time you spend with the language in an effective way and then practice it with locals.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I mean, I think there's always kind of like different systems as well. I think what wouldn't work is if someone jumped into Russia for 2 months and was like, okay, I'm going to be fluent in these 2 months because I'm immersed. But then if they're not following the system, they're not learning, then they're probably screwed, right?
Yeah, no.
I remember I did that when I wanted to learn Spanish. I went to Guatemala because I had heard that, they have a very neutral Spanish accent, without too much slang. So I can use it worldwide. They had really cheap, schools and tutors. And they even had a homestay program where I could stay with a local Guatemalan family.
Oh, that's cool.
And I was like, this is easy. I'm going to get this. I remember the very first meal I had with them was the most awkward meal of my life.
Could not say anything.
I could not say a word. Yeah. I sat there with this whole family smiling. They're really friendly. And they're like trying to talk to me in the most basic Spanish. And I was, eating my food and I was so hungry. I was starving. But I didn't know how to say, like, please pass another tortilla.
Yeah, right.
And
it's very frustrating.
It was so frustrating that very day, I think that was breakfast. I went to my language tutor for lunch, and she wanted to teach me grammar, and I said, no.
Oh, very good.
Teach me how to say, can I have another tortilla?
Yeah, you see, a real need.
Yes, and it was a desperate need. And I remember just writing down a page worth of things I would use during dinner. And during dinner, I took out this piece of paper and I was like, uno más tortilla, por favor.
Yeah, very good. Exactly. Yeah. So many people think that first of all that they need a course or a teacher, right, or a language school when they want to learn a language. And I think the real problem with this mentality is that they usually tick it off their list, like, okay, this is what I have done for my language learning, like I'm willing to pay the money and to come to the lessons, right? And now it's the teacher's turn to teach me. But it just doesn't work like that. And I believe this is the reason why the school system is just not successful.
I can see that. And I mean, it's not even just with language learning. It's in general.
Exactly.
Where 20 years ago, if your kid was failing school, you would go to the teacher and say, like, what is my kid doing wrong? Now, they would go to the school saying, what are you doing wrong?
Exactly.
Why are you a bad teacher?
Exactly. I don't really believe in teaching as such. Like with languages, I'm absolutely sure that you cannot teach anyone a language. It just doesn't work. Like as a teacher, you can help someone learn, but the initiative needs to come from the person. And like all the people I know who have successfully learned languages, even if they were attending classes, they always did something extra. For example, they decided to read something in their free time. It's like, oh, that's an interesting article. Let me go through it, right? Or watch series or like these natural activities. And they are the real learning, That's when the real learning happens.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think, when I tell people, like everyone I meet that wants to learn English, I just tell them like, hey, just like, and this, it was funny that you had ended up saying the exact same thing, but I've been saying it for years. I was like, just watch series in English, put on the English subtitles, and then just watch whatever you want. And
Yeah.
like, and because I see a direct correlation between countries that, dub or even worse, use the voiceover in their language.
Yeah, that's so bad.
I mean, first off, it ruins the movie.
Yeah.
And this is actually why I learned a bit of Cantonese. I was watching these Cantonese gangster movies called Young and Dangerous. It's kind of like the Godfather of Asia. And I had the choice to put it in Mandarin, which is what I understood, or I could put it in Cantonese, which was the original language, the original soundtrack, but I didn't understand it. And even then as a kid, I was like, I don't want to see lips move and like, it just looks stupid.
Right.
Let me put it in the original language and I'll have English subtitles for whenever I can't figure it out.
Okay.
And now, I can kind of get by sometimes in Cantonese. I mean, mostly saying like, get in the van, I'm going to kill you and your whole family.
Yeah, useful
By the
phrases.
way, bring me some dim sum. But at least now I know if someone like is yelling at me.
Right. Oh, that's so true. This is what I've experienced in several of my languages. So, but the important thing to note is you should not do this at the very beginning. It doesn't work like that. Like you just start watching like any language and you'll learn it, right? But if you have some basics and let's say the 500 most frequent words or 1,000 words, then you can start watching. And with this repeated exposure, the words will repeat themselves so often you will understand them.
Do you think that it was easier because the words in Mandarin and Cantonese were so similar that even though I didn't study Cantonese, I was like, oh, he's saying this.
Yeah.
So I was already familiar with the grammar structure, the words, and the meanings. It was just different pronunciation.
Absolutely, because these two languages are related. The same happens if I watch any Slavic language like Polish, Russian. I mean, before I spoke them, before I learned them. So yeah, that helps for sure. If you do it with a completely different language, you need to learn a little bit more before that. Okay,
so for everyone who's excited to download Young and Dangerous, if you don't speak any Chinese, you're probably screwed. You probably have to go from scratch.
Yeah, no, you need some practice before that.
But I guess that's also a hack. If somebody just wants to learn as many languages as possible, is instead of learning them from scratch, like picking up Swahili, just pick up a language that is kind of similar to what you already know. And that way, you're already 30% there.
Yeah, exactly. Like, let's say Italian, French, Spanish, these languages, if you speak one of them, to learn another one is very easy.
Yeah,
so that helps a lot. Yeah.
Portuguese to Spanish, maybe.
Exactly, yeah. But then it's very important to know, like, pick your language carefully, because don't just pick a language to learn a language. I think the intrinsic motivation needs to be there. And I can see that with myself, to be honest. Like with Swahili, it was a decision based on, I want to have that experience, but I don't have a very strong connection to the Swahili culture, to Africa, Kenya. Maybe I will get it when I travel there. But it's a very different experience than when I was learning, let's say, Spanish, because I was so passionate. I really, really wanted to learn it. And that just went so fast. It was incredible.
I can see that. Have you seen Black Panther yet?
No.
You have to watch it. I think that's going to be that connection that you need.
Okay, I will.
And so, it's really exciting about all the languages. I think this is really good for nomads in general. But I think people also want to know, how are you able to kind of run your business while traveling? Do you have employees? Do you have remote workers? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, I have a team currently of 6 people. They're not my employees, they're freelancers. And the interesting thing is they're all my previous clients, like the best of my clients, who always reached out to me wanting to help somehow share this idea because it helped them. And they said, like, I love this. How can I help? So they all started working for free. And now they're my paid coworkers, and we're all location independent. We're in different places in Slovakia, and so we have the business in Slovakia and another one in English, like basically 2 different websites with different products. They're basically the same product but in different languages, and we run it all online. It's working out very nice.
That's very cool. And so it started as a product in Slovakian.
Exactly.
And then you translated it, or did you have to refilm everything into English, or how did that work?
Yeah, totally. I wouldn't just put on subtitles or something. This would be really unfair. I wouldn't like to watch a product like that. So yeah, I redid all the videos, and I basically started offline. So my first products were live seminars. I found this is a really easy way to start for anyone, because first of all, you see if there's even interest in your product, because I didn't know if people will be willing to learn by themselves if I tell them how to do it. But I organized a few seminars. I published it in like co-working websites, and people got really interested. So that gave me very valuable feedback. And then the feedback I got in those lessons themselves, like in the seminars, because people were asking questions, and I was like, oh, you're interested in that? Okay, let me create another module in my video course about this topic because you're clearly interested. So that was very, very, very useful. And so I basically recorded this on video when I was doing my 10th seminar. It was the best version of my seminars, and I knew that I will be happy with this for some time, because I think if you record your first video course right away, then 1 year later you go like, I'm not sure I want to sell this any longer. So I think this was a good thing to do too. I
think that's really smart. I think that's what stand-up comedians do as well, where they'll have their set and they'll practice it first in a small, unknown city, right?
Right.
Just like where they don't really care if they bomb.
Yeah.
And then as they get better, they just revise it. They see what people laugh at, and then they work into bigger and bigger markets. They start in like, I don't know, some little town somewhere in the middle of the U.S. And then they slowly move to like Tallahassee, and then like, they work their way up to LA and New York and like kind of bigger places. And once they kind of mastered it after a year, they film their comedy special, which then is their version of the online course that goes online. And then they're like, okay, it's done. Right.
Yeah. But the important thing to note here is you need to find kind of a balance. Like, you cannot keep improving forever because, you don't want to be a perfectionist. And I remember my business mentor telling me at the very beginning, he asked me in April, so when do you want to have your online product, your video course? I said, October, November. He's like, what? Come on. Like, you can do it so much faster. You could be selling already like much more than just 20 spots in my live seminar. But I said, no, I want to go through this process and improve. And then I want to put it there. And I think at that time, he didn't know me very well then. So he thought, maybe she's this perfectionist that wants to go on improving forever, and she will never do it, right? So it's important to have a deadline.
That's smart as well. And I think instead of having like a month deadline, like 1 year, 2 years, or 3 months, I'm going to do 5 or 10 live events.
Exactly.
Because you can do that in 10 weeks, and then it could be really good, or it can take you 10 months, and it would be similar, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really smart. I think not enough people take advantage of this. So I want everyone to think about your business, your expertise, your skill. And if it's good enough for people to spend an hour or two to watch for free, at least there's that interest.
Exactly.
If it's good enough for people to come for free, start charging a small amount of money. And then if it's good enough for people to pay a small amount of money, charge more. And then just kind of keep going up until you see, okay, this is a product or service or topic that people really enjoy. They're getting value from. They're willing to pay for it. I'm getting all that feedback, as you mentioned, is so important, because that ends up being the course. The course isn't what you want to teach them. It's what people get stuck at, what people learn, and while you're kind of pushing them along into the structure.
Exactly.
And then once it's good, good enough, right? 95% perfect,
Right.
then you film it. And that's so smart to film the live audience, because then instead of it being just a boring thing that, we're just talking in front of a webcam,
Right.
which can also work if you, really keep it exciting and engaging. But naturally, when you have a room full of people and you're recording it, it's naturally going to be engaging. You're naturally going to have the social proof. You're going to have testimonials. It just makes your life so much easier.
Exactly, yeah. But at the very beginning, I wouldn't really recommend people to do free events. I did it once, and I realized that you need to qualify your audience a little bit. But some of the people came because they had nothing to do. It's like, what's going on? Okay, let me see. Languages? Yeah, fine. But they were not interested. But if you put like a small price, like €3 or something, then people who are interested, if they're willing to pay a little bit, then they are the people you want to talk to.
I can definitely see that 100%. And it's sad because I want things to be free and attainable for everyone, right? I think that's kind of the ideal.
Yeah.
I started the Nomad Coffee Club here in Chiang Mai, and I actually helped start one in Gran Canaria as well, where the idea is free weekly events with short talks. And people love it. A lot of people go. We have like 50 people a week going. Mm-hmm. But you're right. People are there just to socialize. Mm-hmm. They're there, because it's free. And they're not that interested in the topic sometimes. And even when they are, there's someone else, talking or on their phone. So it's kind of distracting.
Yeah.
Versus I went to an event that was just $3. It was 100 baht. It was the one that you invited me to about video testimonials. And I realized everyone there was, more serious. Right. They were paying attention. They were taking notes. And just that $3 charge completely changes the audience, and this is why the audience of the Nomad Summit is so good, because they're paying hundreds of dollars to be there. They are there and they're seriously listening. Nobody's on their phone, nobody's talking, to each other during the talk. Versus if someone watches the same talk on YouTube 2 months later for free, and we publish it on YouTube because we want people to be able to watch it from anywhere. But I guarantee if you're watching at home on YouTube, you're not going to pay as much attention as if you were there in person.
Absolutely. And also from the speaker perspective, I think there's nothing worse than talking to an audience that is disengaged and not interested. It's so frustrating. I don't want to ever do it. So, for example, they invite me often in Slovakia to talk to, let's say, children. Please come and motivate children to learn languages. Well, I don't do it anymore because it's so frustrating. The kids are like, yeah, can we go home yet? Oh, is it going to be 1 more hour? Oh, you don't want to talk to people like that. You want to talk to people who say like, okay, I'm willing to pay at least a little bit to listen to you because I'm interested.
That's crazy. Yeah. And if they give the kids an option, you can either play for an hour for free, or you can use your 25 cents of your lunch money to watch this talk. You probably can't ask kids to do that.
No, not with kids.
Yeah. But if you did, I guarantee, it would be a much more engaged audience, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's cool. So, what are your kind of future travel and business plans?
So now my nomad lifestyle has begun, right? So I'm excited about that. I don't know where I will be working from this year, but I'm planning to do the Kenya trip for sure. That's like 1 month in Kenya for language purposes.
Nice. What month?
August probably.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Before that, I'm doing the Nomad Cruise.
Yeah. I'll be on there as well.
Yeah. So that'll be cool too. I'll be working from Lisbon. Then I decided to take my team because they got jealous of me being in Thailand. So I said, okay, girls, let's go somewhere together. Let's do co-working. So we bought tickets to Corfu in Greece. And we'll just go work for 1 week at least from there.
Okay, that's really
exciting.
cool.
Yeah.
I think that's good too that you meet up your team on these kind of getaways.
Yeah, that's so important. Like we do these events in Slovakia, and we connect so well as a team. It's really important to me and to us.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I actually just met up with my Nomad Summit team yesterday at a coffee shop here in Chiang Mai because we're all leaving soon, and it was so nice just sitting there in person talking versus over Slack, or online.
Such a difference.
And it was actually the first time that the whole team was together in one place, because we have a couple new people, and same as you, we only hired people who were previous attendees. So this year we have Heather, who was an attendee in the audience at this year's Nomad Summit, and now she's doing our content. So if you follow Nomad Summit on Instagram, on Facebook, or anywhere, and you see these posts, it's all her, and you can tell she's excited about it. She knows the audience. She's passionate about it.
Exactly. It's so important, right? I also find it important to connect to my clients in this way. So even though all my products are online now, I like to do live meetups with my clients here and there. I did a Christmas party for them, and we have such a different type of relationship then. It's amazing. It's very important to me.
I love it. So if you guys want to hang out with us in person, you can come to the Nomad Cruise. It's April 6th to the 12th. Starts in Gran Canaria, goes to Lisbon. If you use the coupon code Nomad Summit, you can get €50 off, which is a bit more than $50. Right?
I used it. Thank you very much for the coupon.
You're very welcome. Also, hopefully we'll see all of you at the next Nomad Summit. That's just been announced in Cancun, Mexico in October. And then again in Chiang Mai next January, at probably end of January. We're thinking maybe even February 1st. Right. We haven't decided yet, but that's going to be 2020, so quite a bit from now. But subscribe at nomadsummit.com for the email list, and you can get first access to pre-sale tickets, discounts, and you can see Lydia's talk as soon as it's released. We'll send it out on our email list.
Yeah, and I'm very excited about these events. So I'm gonna go. I already have my ticket for Cancun, as you know.
Awesome.
And I think I'll be in Chiang Mai in the winter, so I'll come to that one. I really love your event. I think, and I'm saying this as a person who has attended many conferences, organized and been a speaker. This was one of the best, if not the best, event I've been to. Like from organization point of view and the quality you get in exchange for the money. It's just amazing, really.
Thank you so much for that. And this is from a TED speaker, so shout out.
Yeah, seriously. It was so well run. And I learned so much from you, even because I organized an event for Polyglots in Slovakia, or I used to. And I realized that we were doing so many things inefficiently. And when I look at you, you're so at ease and everything's working perfectly. And you put a lot of effort, a lot of focus on people socializing. This is what people really want, right? So you give it 20% of effort and you get 80% of value, and that's just amazing. So yeah, I got a lot of inspiration.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's our sixth event now doing Nomad Summit, so we've learned a lot kind of along the way, and every year we try to make it better and better. So I'm excited to see you and all of you listeners in Cancun, Mexico. If you guys want to learn or brush up on your Spanish before then, you can check out Lydia's courses at languagementoring.com. You have 2 courses, right?
Yes.
Or 3 now with a Slovakian one.
Yeah. So I have 2 Slovak courses, but probably not that interesting for your audience. I have a course for complete beginners and then people who want to achieve fluency and they already have basics in the language. Okay,
cool. So if you're just starting out, the course is the language key.
That's right, yeah.
Which I actually just signed up for. I just started watching the videos last night so I can improve my Russian. And then your language master course is the one where you already know some basics, but you want to speak fluently.
Yeah. And if people want to be really hold accountable, then we have the Autodidacts Academy, and that's the flagship course of language mentoring, where we really work with a group of 50 people, and we make sure that they create a plan, they keep the plan, and everybody achieves amazing results. Because if you don't tell us what you have done this week, we will write to you and it's what's going on, And if you are stuck, we will help you figure it out. So yeah,
that's cool. That's almost like a language mastermind.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it's called Audiodidacts?
Autodidact, that's another word, like polyglot and autodidact. I know they're English words, but just not known by many English native speakers.
Yeah, I've never heard of it. What does it mean?
So it's would you understand the word self-learner?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, well, it's self-learner. It's a person who teaches themselves.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. So if you guys want to have a conversation with me in Russian or in Espanol, get on that. And Lydia, thanks so much for being on the show. It's been fun.
It's been a pleasure.
Okay. Adios, amigos. Hasta luego in Cancun, Mexico, and maybe again in Ukraine or something. Can't say that yet, but next year. See you guys.
Kusoma lura ni muhimu sana na niakutia. Ninafurahi sana kuzungumza na Wakenya mwezi wa Agosti. Se vi volas lerni novan lingvon, kaj ne volas pasi longan tempon, mi vere rekomendas Esperanton. J'adore apprendre des langues, mais c'est encore mieux de les utiliser en voyageant. Viele glauben, dass Deutsch eine schwierige Sprache ist zum Lernen, aber eigentlich geht das, wenn man dabei Spaß hat, natürlich. Bardzo polecam nauczyć się języka polskiego i podróżować w Polsce. Moje ulubione miasta są Kraków, Wrocław i Poznań. El español es una de las lenguas más útiles para viajeros y además una de las lenguas más bonitas del mundo. К сожалению, русский есть немножко трудный, но надеюсь, что Johnny справится и через год поболтаем на русском. Ak počúvajú nejakí Slováci, tak srdečne pozdravujem a dúfam, že sa uvidíme na nejakom Nomad Summite. Majte sa.
Wow, that was amazing.
Thank you.
How many languages was that?
8, I think.
Oh my god, amazing.
Yeah.
All right, if you guys enjoyed this week's episode, make sure you share it with your friends, take a screenshot, post on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, wherever you hang out. And if you really like the show and you want more people to be able to find it, go to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review. It helps people find the show, and it really helps kind of boost us in the rankings. So go to iTunes. I know it's kind of a pain in the butt, but use the app and leave us a 5-star review. Travel Like a Boss podcast. See you next week. Ciao. Thank you for listening to the Travel Like a Boss podcast. If you want to hear more, including the bonus How to Choose the Perfect Niche episode, join our mailing list at travellikeabosspodcast.com. See you next week, and remember, if you want to travel like a boss, you need to be your own boss. So start your online business today and start living the lifestyle you've always dreamed of.